Today I'm going to be reacting to Why I Am Not Having Children by...
Today I wanted to talk about a topic that I struck on about 3 years ago. I made a video about this. Why I haven't got children, heading into my 40s nearly. That's my child there, you can hear Elvis.
Did she say Elvis? Like Elvis Presley, the singer Elvis? That's pretty cool. Wonder if she has like dogs or cats or what she has, because I don't see anything here, but maybe it'll pop up in the video.
And most people would assume...
Ooh, it's a cat. It's a really cute cat. It's orange and white. We used to have a cat like that. We called him Pumpkin. And then we had another cat like that and we called him Ginger. We were very original with our names. I mean, we were like 10, so, you know. Welcome back to Wife Without Kids. I'm Hannah. This channel is all about building a positive and non-judgmental community for those of us who have made the choice to not have any children.
And most people would assume by this age that I would have 1 or 2 children. But I wanted to talk about being child-free and my experience, as I've spoken to lots of women that have children and that were brutally honest with me and said that if they could go back, they wouldn't have children.
Yeah, that happens. That's a thing. I mean, people try to tell me that every woman is supposed to have children and that that's just natural, and that's usually the comment I get. Well, what, you don't have kids? You're supposed to have kids. That's the thing women are supposed to do. You kind of get shamed for not having kids. It's the reality that there are some parents who become parents and they're just like, oh, you know what? That just actually wasn't for me. I mean, it's too late. It's not like you can go back and do anything about it. And I do think the parents love their children even when they say that, but it's definitely a reality.
They'd made the wrong choice in having kids, but they felt at the time that there was no other solution, there was no other choice, they had to have kids. And they thought it was something that they were socially expected to do.
That's very true. I think people have kids because socially, women are supposed to have the babies. They can have babies, they're supposed to be moms, and so they have children, and they don't really realize that it's a choice. That's part of why I make these videos, because I want people to know that it is a choice to have children. You do not have to have children. It is optional. You'll get grief for thinking it's optional, but it is optional.
Now, I'm not here to tell people not to have children,
Exactly.
But I just want to tell people that there is a choice. There is a choice, an option not to have kids these days. It's completely down to you. Don't feel pressured into doing it. You know, I've seen people putting gentle social pressure on people.
Gentle social pressure? I mean, she's being very polite. I think it's aggressive, honestly. Especially since starting this channel, there have been some keyboard warriors that are telling me, you know what, you're not having kids? You're not doing the right thing, Hannah.
I used to work in an office where, and it was only from the women that did this. There was a lot of pressure on the younger women that worked there from the more mature ones. And they would constantly be asking people, when are you having children? You know, especially the ones that were like newlyweds, when are you having kids? And they used to do it to me all the time also.
The newlywed thing is like, I think that's when I've gotten the most questions. As soon as you get married, everyone wants to know, when are you having children? Because that's the next natural step. People don't ask me nearly as much anymore. I just get other questions and comments about my child-free life, but most people have stopped asking because I think they think there's something wrong with me, or I really indeed do not want to be a mom.
When I was a lot younger, like my late teens, early 20s, even though I knew I didn't want kids, people would ask me the question, why haven't you got kids? Are you having kids? Come to mummy, darling. And I would sort of squirm and go a bit quiet and sort of say, oh, I don't want kids, you know, like that. And that was always greeted by the same answer. Oh, you'll change your mind. They always said that to me, you'll change your mind.
I think that's like the go-to line that everyone just automatically tells everybody. You'll change your mind. It's like the only thing that people can think to say, instead of like, oh wow, you don't want kids? All right, that's cool. It's like, you'll change your mind. Because to have kids is the right decision, and to not have kids, or make the choice to not have kids, is the wrong decision. I mean, that's how it's presented. It's obviously not like that. But yeah. I also think she said she kind of went quiet when people used to ask her that. I think that used to be me as well. Like, I just never knew what to say to people because you don't want to be rude. I was always taught to be really polite, especially to people who were older than me. So it's like, you don't want to say, well, I don't want kids, and make it come across as sounding like you're being rude or disrespectful to like what they're saying or asking you. I used to just not say too much, but I think now, because I've been so open about talking about being child-free, especially since I started this channel, I feel like I'm not at a loss for words anymore when people start asking me, and then whatever response they give me, we just kind of go from there.
Because they obviously knew better than me, yeah? They knew my mind better than me, but I would get that from anyone. And guess what? 20 years later, I haven't changed my mind. I still don't want children. It always created a difficult atmosphere, this topic, when we talked about it. As I got older and more confident and more clued up, I was able to more skillfully handle these conversations.
Exactly. I think that's how I feel about it too. The more you kind of feel confident in your own decision and your own choice, then you don't feel like you have to really hold back when you're talking to people, and not in a way that you're being rude to people, but just that you can sort of explain yourself. You have the right words to explain why you don't want to be a parent.
I'd make a joke or laugh, or I'd say, oh yeah, maybe in 50 years or something. And then I'd spin the conversation back to them and about their kids, which cheers people up because people love to talk about themselves and their own kids, right?
That's actually very true. If you're ever at a loss, if someone starts talking to you about, your child-free choice or trying to get you to change your mind, if they have kids, just start talking to them about their kids or their pets or something, because then it kind of diverts the conversation and it kind of gets you out of an awkward position if you're not in the place where you feel like you can answer the questions, or if it makes you uncomfortable, because some people don't like to talk about it. So yeah, that's a great tactic and strategy. I've used that before too.
I can understand asking someone if they've got kids. I understand that. But listen to their answer. If they're saying to you they don't have children, listen to that and don't carry on with the interrogation. And this is the problem. There could be other things going on.
Sometimes these questions become really intrusive, and I don't think that people intentionally mean for them to be intrusive, but it's always like, tread carefully. Unless you know somebody really well and they want to open up to you and they want to talk to you about why they don't have kids, then that's totally fine. But I do think people have crossed the line, even with me, and they've asked me things, and I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable talking to you about that. I think this is especially true for people who want kids but maybe have some medical challenges and can't have kids, because I feel like that is an incredibly sensitive and personal topic, and if you continue to push and push and push about why people don't have kids in that situation, I think it just makes people want to shut down and not talk about it at all. And I'm not that they have to talk about it, because again, it's very private and personal.
And another point I wanted to make is it's nothing to do with veganism. I know that there's a lot of popular male vegan YouTubers that have promoted having vasectomies now, and it's quite a normal thing in the vegan community for males to have vasectomies, and I think it's an awesome thing that's being promoted now, and it's not looked at as taboo or anything weird. For young guys doing it also. I know that a lot of vegans choose not to have kids and they promote adopting instead, which I wholeheartedly agree with. And if I ever had the urge to have children, that is definitely the route I would have gone down.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with any male having a vasectomy if that's what they choose to do, but I eat plant-based. I'm not like 100% plant-based. Like, I don't know, that's not a conversation that we've had, like, oh, we're plant-based, so my husband should get a vasectomy. That's kind of a strange connection to make, I think. And maybe they feel like they shouldn't have children. I don't know, that's never been a reason that my husband and I decided not to have kids, and we made the choice not to have kids a long, long time ago, way before we were ever plant-based.
For me, it never felt like a choice between having children and not having children. For me, I feel to have a choice, you need to have two viable options, to have them or not to have them. And it was just never something I'd even considered as being a choice, because it's just no part of me ever even, was remotely interested in it.
I can relate to that no part of you really wants to have a baby, no part of you really wants to be a mom. None of that parenting stuff is like appealing or something you desire to have, and it's so strange when you explain that to people, because they're like, but you're a woman, you should want that. I don't know, I don't know how to explain that I don't want that, or that it doesn't appeal to me, I guess.
I can track this feeling back to when I was about 6 or 7 years old. It's got to be 6 or 7, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the living room with my mum, and I was talking to her about babies. Elvie, stop crying, pumpkin. And I remember saying to her, who has babies and will I have a baby? And her answer was, some people do, some women do, some women don't, but most do, and you probably will have. And I never forget it. I just burst into tears and I put my face into the cushion and I was crying so hard. I was so upset that I thought I might have to have children. Where did that even come from at the age of 6 or 7? But
that's crazy. At such a young age, she had this like desire, and that never left her. I mean, good for her. Some people just know. See, this is a prime example of, when you're really young. She said, she's almost 40, and this video is a couple of years old, I think. Yeah, 2 years old, so she's probably 40 by now, and she still doesn't want children. So some people just know. They know that they know, and that's a hard thing to explain.
I know a lot of people might say that I'm selfish, and sometimes I joke and say, yeah, I am selfish. Me and my husband both have the same opinions about children and having children, and that's good that we're both on the same wavelength. Maybe we're selfish, I don't know. My husband, we do what we want to do in our own time.
I don't think it has anything to do with being selfish. You don't want a kid, you don't want a kid. You can't help that you don't want a kid.
I'm a vegan, I don't eat animals. I put their lives above my own eating preferences. I rescue pets. I would happily rescue 1,000 rescue animals if I had the room, the money and the time. I try and live an ethical life. I grow veggies in the garden. I don't kill the weeds. I don't kill pests. Do you know what I mean?
She has a really cool life. She doesn't kill weeds. Man, I would have loved that when I was a kid. My mom's just like, you don't have to weed the garden. We just let the weeds grow. That would have been music to my ears when I was a kid because I pulled a lot of weeds.
Maybe I'm not selfish, I don't know. I'm just not interested in having babies. It's just no part of me, you know, finds that remotely compelling.
Ditto. Ooh, isn't ditto from like the 90s? Everyone used to say ditto in the 90s. I don't think anyone says ditto anymore. I guess I was maybe a 90s child.
And the choice not to have children is getting more popular. And I do know other women my age in my circle of friends that are child-free, and that's great because I'm not the only one anymore.
Am I the only child-free person? No, I do have 2 other friends that don't have kids. One of them I know for sure is going to have kids. It's only a matter of time, but there's definitely one of my other friends that has picked child-free, and I love it because she lives near me and we get to talk about this kind of stuff together.
Just think long and hard before you make a decision to have children. It's not something you can do when you've done it. The kids are there, that's it, they're yours, your responsibility. Don't moan afterwards, because I do hear people moaning about the decision to have kids and wishing that they could go back, but thought that they had no choice. Take a really long time thinking about it. There is no rush. If you're in your early 20s, come on, you haven't got to do it straight away. You haven't got to do it before you're 30. There's no pressure. Have a really good, long, hard think about, is that what you want?
I think it's becoming more common now to actually think about having kids before you just have them. There were always women who made the choice not to have kids, but I don't know that it was maybe necessarily talked about as much, whereas I think now we're starting to get that conversation going where we're saying, hey, having kids is an option. And it's something I talk about on my channel a lot. Having kids is a choice, it's optional, it's not something you have to do simply because you have the equipment to be able to have children.
If you do want kids and they make you happy, that's brilliant. I wholeheartedly support you. I truly do, and I'm happy for you. But it's not for everyone, and it doesn't have to be for everyone, and it wasn't for me.
I mean, I do hope we get to a place where people do feel comfortable about being honest and open about their choice to not have kids. I sometimes have people write me and they're like, oh, you know what, I just don't feel confident enough to say that I don't want to be a mom. So I just say, oh, we can't have kids, or if things just aren't working out, or you know, they don't really come out and say that they're not having kids because that's the lifestyle that they want. They're afraid of what people will say, or they're afraid of how people will react to it. And I think that's actually really, it's disappointing because I feel like we should be happy for people that make a different decision than we do when it comes to having kids or not having kids. Because hey, I'm so glad that my siblings had kids, but that just wasn't the plan for my life, and it just wasn't something that I was interested in pursuing. But I'm happy for them that they have kids and that I get to experience being an auntie. If you want to know what is wrong with women who choose not to have kids, check out the playlist right over here. I'll see you next week.